Hello and welcome back once again to Yellow Card TCG. Zistrel here bringing you yet another product review. And today we're looking at the Academic from Gamegenic made for Tolarian Community College. Now those of you who know this channel and know me will know that I'm a huge fan of the professor over at TCC, and you'll also know that I'm a huge fan of Gamegenic. And I actually received this deck box almost a month ago now, and I actually held off on making the review straight away because I wanted to give it a really thorough and fair review. I wanted to see what it was like living with it for a few weeks, using it for events and things like that. And now that I've gone through everything, I've gone through EUIC, I've gone through locals, just had it around and used it for various bits and pieces, I think I can now give a really full, detailed review. So we'll get straight into it. So there's really not a lot to say, that isn't already described on the Gamegenic website. I'm not going to go through every single feature here because a lot of them are already pretty well explained in the professor's video. I'm more giving how I've used it over the last few weeks, my thoughts about using it over those last few weeks. So at the moment, what I'm using it for right now is just carrying a few different Pokemon decks, as you can see. It stores 3 60-card single-sleeved decks really, really well. Side pocket here that I've really yet to use. I throw some spares in there every now and again, but I don't really keep my stuff in top loaders. I don't really have oversized cards to carry around. But I will say that this pocket doesn't really fit full oversized cards like Magic the Gathering Planes or what have you. So really not that useful there either. Maybe you can carry a small notepad, but again, I'm not the sort of person that takes notes. One thing that I really like compared to the Cards Layer, which let me grab. Cards Layer is actually one of my favorite Gamegenic products in a while. Mainly because, again, I don't really have a use for these side pockets, but the compartment for main cards, plus holding dice, tokens, etc., I find really, really useful. And one slight issue I have with the Cards Layer is that, right now I've got these dividers here that can move around so I can push stuff in and grab them from both sides. But if I pack the Cards Layer to the brim with cards, it becomes really difficult to actually squeeze my fingers in there and access a deck. Right now I can do it because these dividers that also came in the same Kickstarter as the Academic, I can pinch this out of the way, pick up a deck, and continue. Whereas on the Cards Layer, you've got these little cutaways, these indentations on both sides, kind of like you have on the token trays. And that lets you just slip your finger in there and you push it a bit more and get a slightly better grip. Again, if the Academic is packed to the brim, then this is really not going to help that much either because they're a bit shallow, they're not too deep. In fact, if I pull out some stuff, you can see there, there I'm still struggling a little bit as well. It only goes so far, it doesn't go all the way in. And this actually brings me on to my first complaint so far, and it's a small complaint in the grand scheme of things. I'm very happy with the deck box. I think it's one of the greatest deck boxes I've ever used in my life. Arguably better than the Nation's Vault, but that's neither here nor there. The fact that these cutaways don't go deep all the way in means that here I've got 3 Pokemon decks in this box. If I take 2 out and leave just 1 in, sometimes the cards fall over. I'll demonstrate like this. And when that happens, because the cutaway doesn't go deep enough, it becomes really hard to access the rest of these cards. I have to pull some away, and even then there's some left there that it's really hard to access. I can only push them down, and then I have to go in and pull from the bottom up to get the rest of them out like that. Again, it's a really, really minor complaint in the grand scheme of things, but I would have liked to see these cutaways go all the way down to the bottom, just so that you can definitely reach whatever it is you need to reach without having to worry about stuff falling over or being unable to pull stuff out like you do on the Cards Layer. I'll leave this to the side because I'm going to make some comparisons to it in a moment again. But beyond that, the main use I've seen for the Academic so far is these little tray compartments. So right now, this one is empty because I don't have that much dice. I don't like carrying tons of dice. It's a little bit, the tray here is a little bit deeper than the tray on the Cards Layer. So, grab one of those out. You can compare there. It's a little bit taller, you can fit just a little bit more cards. But as someone who plays mostly Vanguard, Weiss, and Pokemon, it can't really fit anything else really relevant. You can fit maybe a single-sleeved standard deck. Let me grab one and demonstrate that. So single sleeve Vanguard deck just barely fits into the tray. Because my right deck is placed in top loaders, that is a really tight squeeze to the point where I can't actually fit the tray in. So with something like Magic Draft or Yu-Gi-Oh, it could work. But realistically, I don't really see you carrying anything other than like tokens and like putting, say, maybe like 1 or 2 commander decks and all their respective tokens in here, and then this entire box just being one like single package for commander or magic. But what I mainly do is in the second tray I'm just carrying like a bunch of staples and spares and like cards to modify decks with for Pokemon, because there's Pokemon decks in here. So whenever I go to like say Pokemon locals, I can bring this and like the actual deck I'm playing for the tournament and then be done with it. Whereas with the cards layer, here you can see that my bottom tray is holding my force markers. The middle tray is holding like my Battle Spirits cores. So there's a lot more variety because I don't need to like think about, okay, how do I most efficiently use the space? But talking about the side trays, this was where I come onto my second major complaint. And again, it's a really minor one, but when I open up the side compartment of the cards layer, because the like latching knobs aren't part of the actual compartment itself, I can open the entire compartment like this, and everything stays flush and flat, and I can just pull stuff out really easily. But with the Academic, however, you can see that the knobs for like locking in is actually on the wall itself. And what that means is that if I try and open this wall straight away, you can just about catch there. In order for these like locking positions to stay in line, the entire thing has to like shift horizontally slightly. So opening this side in and out, you feel a tiny bit more resistance compared to the cards layer. It's not like the end of the world, but you definitely notice it like once you do this action a lot of times. And I get why it is, because these have to stay lined up, and when they stay lined up and it moves down, you've got more distance to travel along the bottom than along the sides. That's how it is. That's fair. I get that. It is just something that I've noticed. The cool thing about like these trays being deeper, again, something I didn't mention is that for Magic, I haven't been playing Magic as much lately, but I picked up a few like bits and pieces now and again. And in the more recent bundles, you get slightly larger dice. These larger dice, like a little bit bigger than these things, they don't fit in the cards layer, but they do fit in these, which is quite nice. Same with the like the commander, the life wheels for Magic has. I think I've got one spare somewhere. Nope, it's hidden away somewhere, but again, they're a little bit too tall to fit in the top compartment or the trays of the cards layer, but they fit in these just fine. And of course, the one thing that you can do on the Academic that you can't do on the cards layer is, as I've mentioned, I've not really found a use for like these side compartments so far. If you want to, you can remove the barrier from the Academic altogether and just have a larger, deeper main compartment. So if I move this out of the way real quick. You can see there, and that fits actually. The width is just right for a Gamegenic, say, Sidewinder or Squire, or like small-ish deck box. In fact, you could probably even fit, I think. Let me try the Stride Deck Set Messiah box. Yeah, there you go. It's a nice snug fit. Does it even fit this way? There you go. There's some space for like some tokens or bits and pieces or what have you. So you can use the main compartment for putting boxes in boxes in boxes, which is something that I personally like doing a lot. I have everything like in deck boxes, in storage boxes, and the only thing I don't have is a storage box for my storage boxes. Some might say it's a little bit excessive because the Academic already provides really good protection. Of course it does, it's a Gamegenic product. But again, that option is available to you should you want it. So overall, the fact that it can store like more than just one deck makes it really good for, I think, non-tournament use. Like going to locals, going to game night with friends, just being able to have just like one box where you can have loads of different things, maybe even fit like a G-Zone markers tokens for Vanguard, 2 or 3 Pokemon decks, spares, 2 Yu-Gi-Oh decks, maybe a Magic deck, what have you. And just being able to like be a good evenings of gaming's experience all in one package, I think is the main draw to the Academic. I think for things like tournaments, I would probably still stick with like, these like watchtowers or the strongholds, because they're just a little bit more compact, and when you're at a tournament, you only really need your deck and nothing else. You don't need multiple decks, unless it's like a best of 3 conquest format, which I think Flesh and Blood does do, in which case, that'd be fine. For me as well, like in Magic, one of the main reasons I even bought the Academic in the first place is because for Magic, one of my decks is very, very valuable. One of my commander decks is like one of my crown jewels of my card game collection, and I have that triple sleeved. In fact, let me get it. So this is one of my most valuable and beloved Magic the Gathering decks, and you can see based on the thickness, it is 100 triple sleeved cards, and I've got a few double faced cards in here as well. And you can see I have this deck box which it currently lives in, because this is the only deck box I've ever found that fits triple sleeved 100 cards, until the cards layer came along. And the cards layer not only fits the commander deck with ease, but it also has a bit more space for other bits and pieces. Whereas, as you can see here, to fit the 100 triple sleeved cards, plus like my extra double faced cards, plus the commander, is a really, really tight squeeze. It's a really tight fit. Whereas here it's a lot more comfortable. So being able to fit something like this is one of the reasons that I bought this in the first place. And it definitely does that job really, really well. Again, my complaint is that this is a little bit more bulkier than the one that I'm currently using. I haven't moved them across yet because I haven't really played Magic in a while, and I don't plan on like taking that to locals to play casual Commander with friends anytime soon. But having that option is always really good. And again, you can mix and match stuff. Like, I have another Academic in another colorway, standard Gamegenic customization. And I think, again, like, the strength is the flexibility. Knowing that, like, okay, I'm going to just locals. I want to carry, like, 2 or 3 decks with me. Or I'm going to, like, a game night with friends. I need to carry 2 things, but a bunch of spares, a bunch of extra bits and pieces. It is really good for that. And I saw a lot of people, actually, at the Battle Spirit Saga launch event last month that I was judging. Vlog link in the description up in the corner. A lot of people had their Academics. And because this Battle Spirit Saga launch event was basically akin to a giant sealed event, where you were buying boxes on the night before, buying product and building decks out of your product, this was really good for carrying all your spare product, things like unneeded X-rares, unneeded hollows, whatever, spare sleeves, and then you had like a smaller deck box for just the actual play cards. Or you could put everything in here, put like the unneeded spares in the compartments, so that when you're being deck checked, they don't get mixed up with the actual deck itself, and then you have your cores and whatnot, all in a nice, easy to access place. So things like those, I think, really cool. For even Digimon, like I know that some people with Digimon, they have your memory counters on the top of your mats, and use like those little figurines, like plastic markers, to say like the counters. You can stick those in the trays because they're big enough for those, and then have everything else in your main compartment. And again, it's like, compared to say the Nation's Vault or like like those Ultra Pro dual deck boxes, some people I see use sometimes, instead of like being made for one specific use and one specific function, the Academic here was designed for the Professor's use, but it's capable of doing so much more than that, and I think that's the real strength of the product. So, like I said, I've been carrying this around to locals, to EYC, carrying around here and there, using it quite a bunch. And I wouldn't say it's like my number one go-to. Like if I'm say like going to locals, like I think, okay, what am I going to play at locals? If I'm going to play Messiah, I'll throw in the Messiah deck box. If I'm going to play Avant-Garde, I'll throw in my Nation's Vault, because that's what Avant-Garde lives in. If I'm playing Pokemon, again, because I need dice, I'll use like a Watchtower, because I only need 1 deck for locals. But I'll bring this with me, with spares and with other decks that I can lend to other people. Like, I'm going to be using the Watchtower mainly for actual playing Pokemon locals, but this will be in my bag, carrying everything else I might need. And again, that backup, that flexibility, is where I think this can easily live in your bag, and you can change like what's in it as and when you need to, depending on what you play. So as for picking one up, like I mentioned, it was only a Kickstarter exclusive, and the Kickstarter's now over. If you do want one, however, the professor has mentioned in a video, which again I'll link up here, if you really want one and you missed the Kickstarter, tell your local stores to reach out to Gamegenic and tell Gamegenic that you want to buy one, and they will consider bringing it to market. I don't know what the retail price will be, but I can say that no matter what the cost is, given how neatly it sits on your desk, on your table, and does everything you need it to, it'll be worth the price. Because I've been comparing it to the cards layer a lot, and the huge issue with the cards layer is that it's really bulky. Like, I carry this with me sometimes to locals, but it sitting on the table takes up a lot of space compared to this, which is, just a little bit over half as big. So you carry almost as much of the important stuff, and it's a lot easier to like fit in your bag, fit on the table, if you're in a cramped space. So I think they're both great products, and the fact that this is more commonly available means that you'll probably end up buying this. But again, if you really need like the compact factor and the slightly elevated space and things like that, I think it's definitely worth asking Gamegenic for them. So if the professor's watching this, hello, I like your content, I like your deck box, thank you very much. Once again, thank you to Gamegenic. I pay for this myself, this one's not sponsored, but again, I love Gamegenic's products, and this continues to not disappoint. So that's it for this. I've covered everything I wanted to cover. If you want to see more product reviews, please let us know. Say like, cover this product, cover that product. Something's coming out from a different company, let me know, get in touch. I'm down to like review whatever. Like I said, as a judge and a player, I'm really into storage and what people use, like accessories people use on their cards. And I'm just interested in just sharing as much information about that as possible. So subscribe to the channel if you want to see more of those coming from the future. Again, engage, tell us what you want to see. But until then, take care, see you around, bye bye.